Hello, everyone. I'm going to be going over Interview with a Vampire, episode 5. Just so you know, spoiler alert, there will be spoilers in this review. So, I'm basically just doing my deep dive and my take on this. So, in the beginning, of course, we see that Lestat and Louis and Claudia are really in this situation where things have gotten really bad. Claudia resents both of them, even though obviously it was Lestat that um, killed her first love. But Claudia is resentful. She resents both Louis and Lestat for his death, and she lets them know that she will never forgive them, yada yada. So as we go into more into the episode, Claudia goes out, she leaves, she goes to different colleges. She have questions, and Lestat won't answer any of the questions that she has. Now, to be fair, I think in Claude from to defend Claudia, I think it's very fair for her to ask these questions. I think it's very fair for her to be like, okay, are there any more vampires? What's going on? Like the fact that he won't tell her anything, I think is reasonable enough to be upset because even though obviously, you know, it's not a lot of vampires out there. I think that she deserves to know, more than what he's given. And, to be fair, there could be a real reason why he's not telling her. But I think on Claudia's side, I don't think that she's um being crazy or just being a brat for wanting to know. There's nothing wrong with wanting to know. So, during this episode, we see that Louis and Lestat relationship is not in a good place. Not that it actually ever really was, but it's definitely not now. And even Louis acknowledges it, and he says, when Lestat comes at him and say, "Hey, we were happy before her," and he was like, "No, we were not happy." So there is a lot of tension, a lot of layers to these characters, a lot of layers to their relationship, and we see Louis and we see Lestat, and they're both just like, you know, on the ends of the stick. So you have Lestat who is probably happy that she's gone, and then you have Louis who blames Lestat for her leaving. So he's like, "Listen, you are the reason why my daughter, slash sister, is gone. She's gone. She's gone." And not only that, I mean, he Louis even appears in the bed, and it's almost like he's kind of frantic. He's worried. I mean, you guys got to think about this. Even though we know that Claudia is a vampire and she's not necessarily in danger when it comes to humans, but if Lestat refuses to tell her what's out there and refuses to tell her about other vampires, then naturally Louis, who really loves Claudia, he's worried, and I would be worried too if I had someone who was a lover and my child who's a vampire leaves and I don't know what's out there because he won't tell me, he won't tell her, and I don't know what she's doing or what she's getting into or where she is. I mean, these are like natural feelings to have, but I do think that Louis is kind of taking the blame game a little bit too far, concerning that this has happened for 7 years. So Lestat is actually in a place where he was already cheating, but in this sense, he's kind of probably feels like he's forced out of this relationship or forced from Louis's love because Louis refused to give him anything. The conversation, if he even tries to have a conversation with Louis, he's going to bring it back to Claudia. And he says that he does this on purpose. So for 7 years on Louis' side, he is experiencing the rejection. He is experiencing the the pain of knowing that someone's here, but you're not able to do anything about it. You're not able to touch them. You're not able to, you know, show them love and them show you love. Like he just Louis just shut down completely towards him besides anything with Claudia. Now, to me, in a sense, and obviously there's a storyline, right? I mean, you know, you gotta have a storyline, but I do think that when it comes to Lestat, obviously he could have went to try to find Claudia to make things work with him and Louis. But I think in Lestat's mind, I don't think that he is thinking that I don't even want her back. And when she does return, um, he says something like, you know, you're here to do your quick laundry and then you're going to be gone for good. So this is a clear indication, the fact that the writers did not want to put that, you know, he would go and go find her and come back. They obviously wanted us to know as viewers that listen, he does not want Claudia to come back. So or have any intentions as to her coming back. So things begin to increase as Claudia has let her intentions being known that she is coming back to take Louis. Okay, she comes back, but her desire is to take Louis, and they're gonna go find other vampires because she's saying, you know what, this man is not, he's toxic, he's abusive, he's, you know, crazy, he wasn't a good parent to me, he traumatized me, and he traumatized Louis probably too. So I don't, it's his fault. This is what the reason why things are not working between me and Louis is because of Lestat. So let's take Lestat out the picture and we can be happy together. So the thing, but of course the problem is that, you know, uh Louis was created by Lestat because he loves, he says that he loves Louis, that he wants Louis. And so of course Lestat isn't going to just, you know, be like, oh yeah, you can just go. Like he's been waiting this entire time for their relationship to finally put Claudia behind them and to move forward. But instead Claudia comes back and things begin to grow as you know, tensions begin to grow. And then Claudia lets her, you know, makes her proposal towards Louis and let him know that she cannot live without him. And so, you know, Lestat is just kind of brushing it off like this isn't a big deal. You know, forget her. She's just a little child. She's a little kid. She didn't have a life that was meaningful. You know, I turned her, whatever. And he's like, come on, you know, and then he looks to Louis for approval and for agreement or something. And of course, Louis does not give him that. Louis is thinking whatever he is thinking concerning Claudia. And remember that Claudia and Louis can talk to each other through their minds. So Claudia is reasoning with him, and then things start gets even worse as the more he uh Louis annoys him, the more upset he gets. And of course, again, in Lestat's defense, and a lot of people are going to be mad at me about this, but in Lestat's defense, Louis has been ignoring him this entire time, and whenever he would get him attention, it's only concerning, you know, or alluding to a Claudia. So you've been ignoring me for 7 years, and obviously we know that 7 years isn't necessarily a long time for vampires, but still, I mean, it's long enough to build resentment and anger and energy, right? So it's like you've been ignoring me this entire time. I am trying to get your attention. After this, the person says that she's going to take you away from me, and you're not reassuring me, you're not assuring me, you're not doing anything, you're still ignoring me. And then finally, Louis looks at Lestat, and when he looks at Lestat, that's when Claudia, you know, makes her final plea. And then, you know, she says it out loud. She doesn't keep it in her head. And, you know, Lestat is not happy and he attacks Claudia because he sees Claudia as the problem. But then Louis comes in and he intervenes. And it's over after that. I mean, I personally, if you guys remember, there was a line. I don't know if you guys remember this line, but this was after Claudia was like, "I'm here to pick up Louis," and then Lestat kind of gives this look, and it's the same look that he kind of gave when Louis asked him if he could sleep with anyone that he wanted to. So it was like that same, like that eye look, and his eyes kind of widening and then kind of going back to normal. And I think that as soon as she let that be known that she was going to pick up Louis, I think that from then on out, it was already over with. Like, even before they started fighting, it was a done deal. It was just like, "This is over. This is it. Like, I'm not going to sit up here. I'm not going to let you take him from me. You're insane if you think I am. And I've been holding back my power this entire time. I've been the best vampire that I could possibly be, and now I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show you guys what it really is." And even during the fight, he said that he was trying to restrain himself, but he just reached the point where he just couldn't take it, and unfortunately, um, Louis was the punching bag, but Louis chose to be the punching bag. But at the same time, he did not choose to be beat it on. So it was just like, it's just a whole bunch of complication. I feel very bad for Louis. But I also think that when it comes to Louis, I'm a little bit frustrated in where they have him at right now, because I think that Louis has a lot more power than what he is showing when it comes to Lestat. He has a lot of power, and I don't think that we're seeing it. I don't think that he's using it. Again, obviously we need a storyline, but I think that those different layers that we've seen at the beginning of the season, I would love to see those again. And I know that obviously he's in the time period where he was sulking about, losing Claudia, but he does have power. So over Lestat. So it's just sad to see him getting beat up like that. Like Lestat has totally lost it, and he says that he's trying to show restraint, and it's a lot of layers and complications to their relationship. And I think that people are really really quick to bash Lestat because of him being physically abusive, but I also think that people forget that there is a mental abuse that has happened in the last 7 years. When you are, I mean, even as human beings, I mean, can you imagine being with someone who is hanging something over your head for years, and then they're not even giving you love or time or attention or affection outside of that? They're just provoking you and making you upset and dragging you into what, Lestat said, your gloom. So I think that even though obviously Lestat is absolutely wrong for what he did, right? He's wrong. But I also think that we need to acknowledge that there was some mental abuse on Louis' part. We Because I think that that would be imbalance for us not to at least acknowledge that Louis abandoned his partner, for all of these years. So he was there with him. He just abandoned him and would not give him, what he needed. And, that's real. So, in this world, in this universe. So it's going to be interesting, guys. Give me your opinion. What do you think? Do you think that I'm being too lenient on Lestat? What is your take? How do you think this is going to affect their future? I'm so excited to hear. And thank you so much for watching.